Welcome back to The Pod Has Spoken. We are covering season 47 of Survivor. So happy to be back, and this was an amazing episode. First and foremost, I have my co-host, Riley McAtee. Riley, how's it going? How'd you feel about the episode? Just like in one sentence.
Oh, it was great.
Good.
This is what I
wanted. Yep.
I guess that was 2 sentences. Sorry.
I stopped you after the first, but you still kept going. Like I tried to play you off a little bit. And I have to address, because last week we talked about getting Sweet Booty Donnie on here as our producer because Ashley's gone. I hope she's having an amazing time in Greece. She deserves the time off, and totally cool that she's leaving. As long as nobody else leaves throughout the entire season, like super excited for her.
Whenever I leave, it's like, man, screw this guy Riley. And when Ashley leaves, it's like, we're so happy she's getting some time off.
She just works so hard. She puts it all together, you know? And we talked to Sweet Booty Don. It's actually Sweet Booty Beacham. He goes by his last name. And we're very excited to have him work his magic and be everything that makes us look good behind the episode. That is going to be Donnie's job this week. So thank you so much, Donnie. With us today, very, very special guest. Very excited to have her on. She was Riley's winner pick for season 45. And my top three, we have Hannah Rose. Hannah, how are you?
Hi. Oh man, I'm so sorry for your fantasy drafts. I feel like that's all I say to people, but I'm sorry.
I'm actually sorry because I feel like when I pick somebody, it's like a curse.
It's the curse.
So, you are actually the reason that I quit. So
damn. Yeah, I'm sorry.
And you got that right out of the way. You quit. It's okay to quit stuff, right?
I mean, listen, I don't think it is something that should be praised on Survivor per se, but in life, absolutely, walking away from something that doesn't serve you is healthy. But, you know,
that's
publicly on a reality competition show, you're going to be shamed, which I understand.
Yeah. Big respect, though, Hannah. Like,
thanks,
honestly,
Tyson.
like I said that the whole time. I was like, she figured out it wasn't for her. She figured it out quick, and she got the fuck out of there. Like, yeah. Why drag that on and then make it just worse for everybody around you when you're like 2 weeks in, and then you're like, I know we had a locked up finale, but I got to bounce. Like,
and also
so much worse.
Like starve the world of Emily Flippin, who was going home, and like, I wanted to eat and I wanted to sleep, but I also knew that Emily would be going home, and if she played her shot in the dark, it would be Brandon, and I just felt so bad. I am not cut out to be a cutthroat player. I'm just not.
Okay. Before we get into this episode, are you happy you went? Are you not? Did you learn something? Like, what is the mindset? What is your mental health afterwards? And was it worth it? Did you get something from it?
1,000% worth it. You know, I definitely feel for the super fans who feel as though I stole a spot from them, and I won't invalidate that feeling, but everything in me wanted to go. Everything in me was like, yes. And I prepared for every possible outcome, except that I would get there and have a complete mental and psychological shutdown. I'm so glad that
What was it? What was
like,
the shutdown?
Honestly,
what were you shocked? Did you not realize it was going to be what it was? Like, did
they
not prepare? Like, was it you? Where did that come from?
So I prepared, and they cut out my like final interview and just had me saying, I read so many books, which makes like, of course, books aren't going to help you, but I prepared physically on the food front. Like, I truly prepared. I mean, I had months and months and months to anticipate that I would be cast. And for me, you know, I have what I thought was like pretty mild generalized anxiety. And so I came on, this is like not public knowledge, but I chose to come off those meds to continue with casting. And I thought I would be fine because I'm like, you know, I have coping skills now. And I got out there and it was like, I've never experienced so much physical anxiety in my entire life. And then obviously I think what I've learned is that I really value comfort. I have a big sign that says courage over comfort. But like, I love comfort, and I also felt so close to the people on Lulu so quickly. And I was like, like I'm in a 12-step recovery program. Like you don't talk shit. You don't backstab people. And I thought I would just be able to put all of that aside and be like, yeah, I'm cutthroat. And I got out there and was like anxious, didn't sleep for 3 days. And I was just very hungry. Obviously the whole nicotine thing got like a bad rap. That was just a funny comment I was making. But yeah, so I don't regret it at all. 45 is like notoriously obsessed with each other. Like we all are very close, like actually authentically. It doesn't feel like a clout chasey, inauthentic cast. I'll just leave that there. And I'm just so glad that I went.
Shots
and I had
fired.
the best time ever at Ponderosa.
Okay.
Wait, you said that you went off your meds. Is that something that like the show requires when you're on the island? Like you won't have access to those meds? Or
I don't think they state that, but I anticipated that during casting, if I said, hey, I'm on this anxiety medication, kind of like with Jackson. I mean, he was on a, like not just an SSRI.
Lithium.
But yeah, which like, I get it. I also had to come off my acne meds. That I did have to come off of, but I just anticipated it and made the call for myself. And I also was like, it's been 7 years. I don't really think I need it. Because usually we grow accustomed to the things that work for us and say, maybe I don't need this anymore. It's like when you stop your strep throat medication before it's over. Anyway.
It comes back.
Yeah. So like I was unwell deeply.
And would you suggest like if you're going to come off some medications like that to try doing it on Survivor? Like
I would never give that professional advice to anyone ever. If you are thinking about coming off your meds, like please speak with multiple professionals about it, but also don't do it in the months leading up to going into objectively one of the most stressful experiences. Like that first moment on the barge with like Jeff and the logo and 60 cameras. And I'm just like hysterically sobbing and dissociating. I was like, I think I've made a mistake. Like Big Brother might have been a better fit.
So that was like the moment, like the first time the cameras were rolling, you already knew it was like, this isn't going right.
Being on that pontoon, there's like a quick image of me and like Caleb and everyone on Lulu looks super excited because they see the barge. And I'm just like playing with my scrunchie and the look on my face is like, what the fuck did I do? I didn't think I would be cast. I just can't stress that enough.
Okay. A couple things before we get into the episode. You talk about like the super fans who feel like you stole a spot. Yeah. My argument, you earned your spot. Like you did all the work. You did everything to get to that point. Now it's yours. You earned that spot to do with what you wanted. And arguably you did that as well. Would you, season 50, it's been teased a bunch of times. Are you waiting by your phone? Would you answer the phone call from casting? Would you go back?
Yeah.
Would you try again?
So when I was watching the episode today, ironically, I had the delusional thought of, this doesn't look that bad. I feel like I could do that, which is exactly what my thought was while I was watching.
Was it Andy COVID. Specifically that you were watching and you were like,
it wasn't, it was Jon Lovett. I was like, this neurotic, like, it doesn't look, I feel like if I didn't pack jeans and I didn't lose my socks in the monsoon, I would have been fine. But I don't know. Every time I watch it, like all of 46, I was like, I could do that. But there is no regret when I really think about what I did and why I did it. There is zero regret. And I feel like I modeled that which I preach, which is like, stay true to yourself, even though you're going to piss off millions of people.
Would you go back?
Oh,
they call you for 50.
You couldn't pay me $3 million to go back.
To go back. Okay.
I would never go back.
So you can go to gofundme.com/Hannah Rose Returns to get that fund going.
Oh, it gives me.
We need $3,001.
$3,001 to get her back on the island. Let's go straight to it because there was someone this episode who had meltdowns of epic proportions. Andy from Gata. He started out pretty clean, makes alliances with Jon, feels pretty good, goes to Rachel, feels pretty good, wants to talk to her early in the morning over yoga. She says, that's a red flag. So instead, he wakes her up in the middle of the night, panicking. Is that like, what is his mindset there? Can you speak to that at all? Like, did you feel those feelings?
No. No. And so part of me always tries, especially after going out there, I really try to give generous assumptions of people and the benefit of the doubt. And like what you see on TV is not the whole story by any means. You know, you're not seeing the starvation setting in before your body gets used to it. You're not seeing being wet and sandy. I realized I have a lot of like sensory issue. I'm like, wow, I like really couldn't handle having sand on me. Like that's a red flag. Like I will not go to a beach still.
Ever.
I just moved to the mountains and I'm like, this is fine. I'm far away from sand. But Andy, what I saw, because my like anxiety that I was experiencing that first day was very, I don't know, it was just visceral, but it wasn't, am I going to be liked? It wasn't like pulling on old wounds of being out of the loop and not belonging. Andy's paranoia, it seems like, just really started to spiral. And like when he said they cheered for Jon and not for me, when I was out there, I was not thinking about like, oh, I mean, people would try to talk strategy with me, like Emily, and I would just be like, so what about this coconut? Like my thoughts were purely like survival. Like I just didn't even have the capacity to strategize. I feel like Andy's fear of getting voted out really just took a mind of its own. And, you know, I heard that in some post-show conversations, it was said that like his freak out was akin to Brandon's in season 45, episode 1. And I 1,000% disagree. Brandon had a straight up panic attack that wasn't about being booted out. Like his body shut down. Andy, again, there might be more to the story. Looks like he started freaking out that they were going to lose. He walked away and very intentionally laid down and was like, I'm getting voted out. And it seemed to be this like play. There's something about his personality that gives me, again, I feel really badly because like people talk mad shit about me. And I was like, they don't know me. So I'll put that out there. But like, there's something about his personality that, you know, it says in the preview for the next episode, this is giving red flags of like clingy, toxic boyfriend. And I was like,
yeah,
that's what I'm seeing. Although I'm sure there's a lot more to him.
Well, I think that clingy, toxic boyfriend is him trying to win people over, realizing it's not working, so trying harder and can't like pump the brakes at that point. And he knows he's doing damage, but there's no stopping it. That's my read on it. And that's what he did this entire episode. So he has that meltdown in the middle of the night where he goes to Rachel. Then that challenge, they start to lose. I think it was a mixture of physical, like it's hot out there. You see people have those moments. He laid down to catch his breath. Medical gets called at that point, like you're in it. If medical gets called because of something you're doing and you're not hurt, you got to play like you're hurt at that point. You can't let the tribe be like, they called it for medical for what? To lift him up. So he's laying there and he's just like, they're going to vote me out. They're voting me out. They're voting me out. How sincere do you think Jeff was that when he was like, no, buddy, you got more game. It's not, your torch isn't snuffed. Is that?
I feel like Jeff was, first of all, like Jeff has publicly disowned me, but I love Daddy Jeff forever. Okay. And I think he is sincere. Yeah,
is that
I think he's
healthy
authentic.
For you?
Probably
is that
not.
Healthy for you to have a Big Daddy Jeff disown you forever while
Daddy
you
Jeff.
Forever
Honestly,
love him?
The only point I really like hysterically sobbed after 45 episode 1 was when I saw that Jeff was like, how did Hannah get through casting? And I'm like, you interviewed me, sir. But anyway, it's fine. I do think Jeff is authentic, and I called him Dad at Tribal Council, and he was like, why? And I was like, psychologically, there's a lot of reasons, Jeff. It was such a funny interaction. It's gone forever. But anyway, I do think he was sincere, but I think he was also like, whoa, buddy. Like, I think Jeff didn't know what to do with like the level of cringe that was happening.
Yeah.
Oh, I felt physically uncomfortable. And you know what? I have to also say that like, while I empathize with the physical discomfort and being exhausted, etc., I can't relate to being terrified of being voted out. Because the second I got out there, I was like, how can I get voted out? I hate this. And so I know that 99.9% of people have a fear of being voted out, which is a more common survivor experience. I don't have that. And yours
was
fear.
Opposite. You had the fear of not getting voted out.
I'm going to force you. Yeah. And so I just can't relate to being like, I got to save my life in this game, which is Survivor. Like that means he's invested. So that's something.
What bothered you more? The sand all over Andy's body while he was laying down, or the cringe level of him being like, they're going to vote me out. They cheered while Jon opened the Coke. Look, Hannah, I'm going to call out all of the contestants I played with. Nobody ever fucking cheered for me while I was opening coconuts. Never did I ever get a cheer from the entire tribe for opening coconuts. Someone like Jon, you cheer for him because they've never seen a coconut. They don't know what's going on. They don't know how to wield a machete. They get that thing. Like there's people there that are like, I never used a knife. Can I try opening a coconut? And you're like, have at it, bud.
If
and
people,
then they do it, and you're like,
you
bravo.
For opening the coconut, it's actually a bad sign.
Yeah.
It's a bad sign that they do not
they don't
believe
respect
that you can hack it.
They're not intimidated by you.
Yeah.
They have very low expectations.
It's like watching a child ride a bike for the first time.
Yeah. I think
great job, buddy.
Yeah, his whole like monologue after the immunity challenge, I was physically uncomfortable. I was like,
let's go to it. Let's go to it. Yeah.
I was just
he's certain they're going to vote him out. They cheered again. He said that they cheered for Jon multiple times without cheering for him when he opened a coconut, and they don't like him. They're all against him. They bought, like, he doesn't fit in. Everyone's having a great time except for he's on the outs watching them have a great time. And he had even planned to throw his best friend under the bus. Like, where do you stop? Where do you stop with that? Should he have stopped earlier?
My reaction was Tiana's reaction on the Blue Tribe she literally put her finger to her mouth. And I was like, that is like the screen grab that represents this whole episode.
Yeah, it was so good. And one of the reasons that I wanted you on here for the first episode is because it is hard out there. There's a lot of stresses. There's a lot of factors. There's things that you can't know until you get out there and really feel for yourself. And even then, like, you're watching it again and you're like, I could do that if I wanted to now. Like, that's how it is as an audience member. You're like, I could do that now. And Andy's that same way. Andy actually almost made it on the show last year, didn't get cast. Then he grew into his own and now is here to show us the bigger, brighter, better version of himself, which he wasn't able to do. He said he reverted back to his insecurities here. So he throws Jon under the bus, his best friend, and then he goes back to the tribe. Does he make it better?
I mean, I guess so. He didn't get voted out, which blows my mind. I get it. I get tribe strength. I get it. That was like the whole Emily or Brandon thing. Like, Brandon might bring us down. Emily was negative, but I feel like the lesser of two evils, and we saw Jon's, brilliant mind, but I don't think he necessarily made it better. I think I forgot his name. That one, like, pretty hot white dude on that tribe was like,
Sam.
Yes. That guy, he was like, maybe we should vote out Jon. And I feel like that's probably where that line of thinking went because, Annika did not get voted out. And I guess, the conversations that happened before Tribal, like, there's so much there and you only see a little bit so that you don't know who's getting voted out. And so obviously they got Andy on board. You know that if it's obviously Andy, it's probably not Andy. Like the second that they made it so obviously Andy, I was like, it's got to be somebody else. But who? Yeah. Right. Is it Annika or is it Jon?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but my favorite moment of the whole episode, as a side note, was when someone said in the very first challenge, "Is there mud on my lip?" That I relate to. You're just like, and meanwhile, this person is like covered in mud from head to toe. And I just love, I like those little comedic moments of absurdity because it just shows like you are not in your own body. You are not well.
I had to, I listened to that and I was like, did he say blood? Because he couldn't have said mud because he's covered in mud.
But they did subtitles, didn't they? Didn't they put a little subtitle saying, is there mud on my...
Yeah.
Like, sir, there's mud on your whole body.
Yeah, everywhere there's mud.
It's so good.
How do you feel about the mud? Because you said you have an aversion to sand. I personally, as a contestant on a show like this, I hate when they right off the bat get you saturated in filth. Like, we can do that on our own. Give us a week or two. Like, if you get voted out first, you don't want to be like covered in mud on your exit and have to scrub like you've been there 39 days. Like, part of getting voted out early is you get to exit a little bit cleaner and not have to take 5 showers to rinse the filth and disgust off of you.
Oh, God, the mud. Yeah, I mean, luckily I didn't hit the mud face first until day 3. So that's something. But I mean, that mud, it still lives in me. Also, it's so much
Never
harder
believe.
getting through that mud than it looks. Like, I remember hitting the mud face first because Jeff said it would be cool and I wanted to get Jeff's approval. That's how you
Yeah.
do it on Survivor. I was like, thanks, I want to die. And I went and face first into the mud. And then it's like you can't actually move your limbs without putting every single ounce of strength into it. And it doesn't look like that when you watch it. You're just like, get through the mud faster. Oh my God, the
Yeah.
mud. Yeah, no.
The mud. So let's keep going with Andy here. We go back after the challenge, and Rachel is stunned. She's never seen this type of meltdown. I haven't either. Is there a meltdown this epic on Survivor that we've witnessed? Is this the most epic meltdown of all time?
Yeah, I just think it's the most, definitely new era, for sure. But even in the past, like I think of Russell Hance's brother, like having a meltdown. And that was a very
Son,
different.
Brandon Hance. That was a very,
Brandon
that
Hance.
was
That was
like
a very
on
different. And like Shatia with the rights, like there's been a lot of like aggressive, violent like things happen.
Yeah.
But the paranoia, anxiety, insecurity, just like I haven't seen that. And again, I was very uncomfortable. I mean, the fans are gonna love this episode because it's just giving you so much to feel strongly about. And I think they make us feel incredibly strongly about Rachel because she is sane and she is like, hey, I see through this and I don't want any part of this. And so you feel for her because she's almost being, like she said, dragged down.
Yeah. I think it was very astute of her to recognize immediately, like when Andy approached her, like, we're good, and she's like, yeah, we're good. He's like, let's meet in early in the morning before people get up, and she's like, nope, this is not good. And then he wakes her up, and then she's like, yeah, and she just like is immediately knows that Andy is going to be a problem. And before tribal council, they're all there, and Jon also, I think, very, very astute in understanding that, like, I think he says, you think of how, because of the way it went down, you'd think he's the target, but I'm nervous. I need to fill it out. Like, it's not usually that simple. And it's not like you see somebody that messy and you're like, we got to keep them here. They're so messy. Everyone hates them. They'll be willing to vote that person out at any moment that we choose. Yeah. Let's get somebody right now that's going to be harder once they start gaining a click and getting some momentum. And so Jon understands the game well enough. And I have to confess, CBS cramming Jon down our throats for months. On talk shows, on social media, they've never put this much marketing behind a individual preseason as Jon, because he is a famous podcaster. And I have to assume, I don't listen to Pod Save America. I know it's very popular now. Now everyone's told me how popular this podcast is, that anyone who's not Jon's audience, because of the influx of Jon throughout the months, has wanted him to fail. And those that are Pod Save America fans have wanted him to thrive. Yeah. And I will be honest and also apologize, Jon. I wanted you to fail because you did get crammed down my throat. But this first episode, you were very fun. I would have liked to see you go further. I'm sorry that I felt that. Not your fault, Jon. Not your fault. But yeah. So I got what I wanted. And am I happy? I don't know. Hannah?
So he was not crammed down my throat because, as you know, I will pop on social media for like 3 seconds and then do a Survivor and quit and deactivate.
And why is that? Why is that? Are you getting bullied? Are you just like,
no? I have a weird cabal of Gen Z fans. And they are like diehard for me, which they've turned me into this, like, I got one of those fan edits where it's like my face in slow-mo with like sexy music. And I'm like, what is this? And so every time I do rejoin the internet, I am met with an outpouring of love. I think they've turned me into a bit of a meme, which is great.
Immortalized.
Which is fine. And they're all really wonderful young humans. But when COVID first happened, I read this book called How to Break Up with Your Phone and Deactivated Social Media. And my quality of life just completely changed. And so for me, the saturation of social media, anytime I do get back on, feels like, whoa, this is a lot. And also very time consuming and pulling my attention away from like that which is around me. And so I like being off grid. I also like that people can't just like yell at me, whether it's nice things or mean things. I'm like, you don't have access to me, which is very empowering.
Yeah.
Wait,
I used to be that way.
How do you break up with your phone? Do you not have like the apps on your phone? Do you have like timers set for them? I've got like some timers on mine.
Yeah. I mean, this book the book was like I'm all about like this book changed my life and that book changed my life. But it's like a systematic process, I think. Like if you've noticed, Tyson, in our text, like my phone is almost always on do not disturb because I don't want to feel like I'm on call and get pinged for my attention. And so it's things like that.
You do text back immediately though.
I am on my phone often. I'm listening to books constantly. And so I'm like, I have my, I also
you don't do that for everybody though. Look, I don't want to get you in trouble now with the people you don't text back immediately.
They know.
Hannah Rose, in my book, texts back immediately.
I do. But also, like, you are one of my all-time favorite Survivor players. And that's why when someone told me, because I did not listen to any podcast, I didn't want to hear people rip me apart. I was feeling very sensitive. And I think Brandon told me, just so you know, Tyson was really nice about you. And because a lot of the OG... not like more old school survivors were not, which was like kind of like, what's her name? Like
what's
Eliza,
her name? Yeah.
Eliza,
sure.
And some
Eliza
other
isn't
girl.
known for her kindness. Like that's not her signature quality.
So I like being known for my kindness. But that's just me. But anyway, for me, it was just like, oh my God, because hearing you rip me apart, it would have felt. It's almost like when you watch someone on TV for numerous seasons, you feel like you know them, even though you don't. And so, again, like Jeff kind of shitting on me was like, oh. But he had to save face, and I understand that. But anyway, you're one of my all-time favorites. Like my husband, who I was watching Survivor with, when I told him I was doing this podcast, he is like not down with me going on reality TV. Like he was supportive, but also like, oh God. And he was so pumped about this because he's like, Tyson's a real one. Like I have a very strong aversion to like inauthentic, clout chasing bullshit, which you can just see. And I think when you have your 15 minutes of fame, you want to soak it up. And you have always come across to me as a real one. And so I was like, yes, I'd love to be on your podcast. And I will respond to your texts.
Hannah, thank you so much. Say hi to your husband. And
I will.
Yeah, that means a lot to me. Are you crying right now?
No, I'm not crying.
Okay,
crying.
I was like, okay, I didn't know you kind of had a squeak in your voice a little bit. So thank you. That means a lot to me. Like, how do you know I'm just not a sociopath who knows exactly how people should act all the time?
Even if you are, at least you're mimicking people that aren't full of shit, you know?
I don't think that I am, but
I don't think you are.
I don't know. But that means a lot. Thank you. I've always tried to be real, and I've tried to, be open and honest with people about, who I am to them, just show it. So, thank you for recognizing. Thank you for seeing me, Hannah.
I see you. Also, people can talk a big talk about being real and all that, but it's like, don't listen to what I say, watch my feet, right? Like, what am I doing? What are my actions? And I just think that goes a long way. And so for me, quitting was part of that, but doesn't matter if people don't see it that way.
Yeah, it doesn't. Like, that was real. I respect that. Like I said, like, she figured out it wasn't for her. She bounced. Way to go. Riley, how do you feel about Jon getting voted out here?
I think it's the funniest possible outcome, I feel like. So I'm in favor of it. I actually kind of wanted to see him more after this episode, but going into the episode, I was like, man, it'd be hilarious if Lovett got voted out first. This like neurotic podcast host from LA, who, is admittedly like not an outdoorsy person at all. And then he immediately just blows up, and that's what happened. So I thought it was great.
I mean,
I gotta say though.
Oh, go ahead.
Like, that first challenge, not the immunity, but the like Flint, whatever. So the fact that the tribes are the same color as 45, seeing yellow, which to me immediately I was just like, Lulu, they are gonna suck. Seeing yellow win, I like felt deep
something.
joy. I was like, what is that like? Like, it was, yeah. And so that for me was very, very healing.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jon even was like, we've won a challenge, so we can win challenges. Then
they figured out how to collapse anyways. This is like the Yellow Tribe's fate.
Yeah.
Full implosion.
Yeah, always. Once you get that email that says like your tribe color is yellow and yellow tones, my first thought was, oh, I'm going to be on the shitty tribe. Why am I on yellow? And then once everyone got their buffs and I looked at my tribe, I was like, is this brains? Like, are we brains brawn? Like, this is some bullshit. Yeah. So I expected them to fail.
Okay. Why do you think they set the tribes up that way?
I asked Jeff. We had like a whole cast Zoom with Jeff after the first episode. I was like, hi, I have a question. Why the fuck would you put us all on one tribe and then put Reba, like on one tribe? And even the alternate who was supposed to be on our season instead of Austin was like 7 feet and jacked. And I was like, in what world? And Jeff very pragmatically was like, well, on paper, you all had your strengths. And I was like, bullshit. You want a tribe to suck. Just like Yanu last season. Mm-hmm. Like, you want a tribe to suck. Yes,
this is my theory. Yes, they set up a disaster tribe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You're getting some good TV knowing that a disaster tribe is on the way. Jon should have known he was on the disaster tribe and immediately backed out of this thing, but he kept going. Big kudos to him. Also, I mean, there's so much to it. Riley, did you want Jon to fail based off of the huge hype that was behind him?
I think it's more about like, I'm not a regular listener of Pod Save America, but I have some friends who are big fans and I'm familiar with him and familiar with his personality a little bit. And like, he kind of said it on his last words too. It's like, this is the perfect ammo for his friends and family. Just give them shit for life, which is like sort of like how the people are around him. And so I'm like, this will be great. This is the expected outcome. And I'm always in favor of something that is hilarious.
So it was really funny. And I have to say he was a good sport. Jon, thanks for playing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go to the idle finds we have, or the advantage finds, I guess we have here, Hannah. We have Gabe on Tuku. Could he have executed this worse? Like,
the best
yeah, because he could have executed it like Rome.
Was it Gabe or was it Rome? No, I think it was Gabe, where the box just like falls down the mountain, and I was like, sir. Yeah, I don't know. I wanted to like him because he's from Baltimore City and I've been there for years. I just moved away from Baltimore City. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll get his number. And then I watched the episode and was like, nah, I don't need it. I don't need to make a new friend. I don't know. Yeah. There's something about Gabe. I don't know if it's just like elitist vibe and like, I've cracked the code and I'm better than you. And they did allude to that in the next episode, which was also interesting. But listen, I didn't find a fucking idol. I looked for an idol for 3 days straight. Didn't see that footage. And it's hard. And I can't imagine. I hate Beware Advantages. I miss old Survivor where it didn't have all of these hoops to jump through. It's not as fun. I mean, it was fun with like Kelly Wentworth because she was cool and like did things. But I don't know, Gabe. The box falling down the mountain to me just sums him up.
Yeah. Trying to be cool, trying to play it coy, but getting caught every step of the way. He finds this log that he's just going to burn. And I don't know that we've ever seen somebody just randomly stumble upon an advantage so cleanly.
Right.
So TK leaves, he finds it. Then TK finds him. Like, I get it. Like, there's something about like wanting to get that thing immediately.
Yeah.
But like, Blue didn't even go to tribal council. He now has like a few more days to like keep building on his thing. But Gabe, my favorite moment, I think, of his whole thing was when TK walks up and is like, what is that? And he's like, I don't know. Let's see. And he's like, it's a key to something. And TK is like, oh, you found the key before the thing. And Gabe's like, I'm going to make him think we found the key without finding the advantage. And TK is like, I know he's lying to me. He obviously found the thing to lead to the key, but I'm going to play like, it was just like checkers on chess on whatever is more advanced than chess. And I loved it. And that's how Survivor is so much. Like, you think you're getting the best of someone only to them be besting you only to you be besting them by a little. Like, it's like it never ends. And that's why whenever every interaction you have on Survivor, you're like, are they fleecing me or am I fleecing them? And do they know or do I know? And who knows what?
Ugh. And then the viewer is like, oh, they're so dumb. They should have known. And it's like, you have no idea what is happening behind your back. And I can only imagine playing the game all the way through in my imagination or numerous times. For me, I would worry that would kind of fuck up my like trust when I got home. Like trying to read people. I don't know. I could just see that being a thing for some people. Has that ever been a thing for you?
No, for me, no. But I have heard that like coming home with trust issues and stuff, I have compartmentalized it pretty good, I think.
Yeah, I think you'd have to.
But I have definitely learned to manipulate situations in my real life, specifically to advance my career in certain areas or get the things that I want, like negotiating wise and things like that.
Like, what's an example of that? If you can share one.
Yeah. I mean, let's come back to it. I didn't have one off the top of my head, but there are just moments in conversations, like while I'm negotiating contracts and things like that, where I'm like, we're just going to like not talk to him for 2 weeks. Let's just wait and see. Like, and then you're like, I would never have before. I would have been like, hey, what's up? What are we doing now? And then all of a sudden you lose all negotiating power and stuff like that. So it's always about like gaining the power position. And so, definitely, I think it's made me more savvy in those areas and also understanding when someone's doing it to me.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they're vying for a power position here. So now we're going to regain the power position by acting this way.
Oh, interesting.
And, so, so I have noticed that. But I've heard that some people come home and have trust issues and have to acclimatize and have to do this and that. I would suggest to Survivor casting, don't bring people on the show that when they go home aren't going to be able to compartmentalize.
But how do you suss that out?
It is.
All the psychological testing we had to go through, meeting with the psychologist. Like, this is also what I do for a living. So I was like, I know what you're asking me. Like, I knew how to get by the psych test because I'm like, oh, you're going to do a Myers-Briggs personality test? Like, got you. I know exactly
I mean,
what
it's
you
not
mean.
that hard.
No,
it's not that hard.
Not
It's
at
like,
all.
so on a level of like definitely would to definitely would not, in a moment of stress, how likely are you to harm someone else or harm yourself?
Right. So I feel like a lot of people
very
can get
likely.
through.
B,
and it's
that's
like
the test.
Yeah,
some of it.
I think there are definitely probably red flags in casting, and I don't know how hard it is to do casting, but like you're looking for personality prototypes and then putting them with other personality prototypes and like seeing where there will be conflict and all this. But I gave my casting person so many red flags. Like I upgraded my flight to LA to first class. And she was like, you need to learn to start roughing it. And I was like, well, I love comfort and I'll rough it when I'm out there. I like snuck out of my hotel room to get Starbucks. And she was like, Hannah, I'm telling you, this isn't going to bode well. And I was like, but I need caffeine. So it's like, there were red flags for me, but I'm also really good at talking my way into and out of whatever. And so I think, I don't know if you can anticipate this person is going to go home and like implode. Like the people that I've talked to from my season, specifically for 46, have like mountains of trauma that is just sitting there unfestered, manifesting in their day-to-day life. And I'm like, please go to therapy. Yeah.
Did you write that song so that I know that we can play that on that little jingle?
Please go to therapy. Yes.
Yeah. I love it. Perfect.
Yeah.
So Gabe just scrambling, and he scrambles so hard. He's a gambler. He takes risks. He goes for the 3. I personally love this little twist of the box where you think you got it, you open it up, and you're like, I got part of it, but I could get more if I wanted. Gabe is a gambler, but only when it comes to 3 tribal council idols. He's not willing to go for more. Did you think that was odd that he stopped there?
I don't, based on how it had gone so far. And I think it probably was strategic. And I think that's where a lot of people, we see it. I mean, we saw it in 46 where so many blindsides because it's like, oh, I have this idol, but if I don't use it tonight, maybe I can use it at the next one. And it's like that greed and like anticipation of more power. Yeah. So many people were blindsided with an idol in their pocket. And as a viewer, you're just like, what? And so I think for Gabe, like, would it be better TV for him to have kept going? Sure. But also he was probably like, I could either cut my losses now or I could maybe blow up my entire game just to get ahead. And then it would all be for nothing.
Yeah, but didn't he already kind of blow up his game? He doesn't see any of that.
But he doesn't know that he did.
Yeah. So TK knows he has something. Now, then he also tells Sue, who props to Sue. Like she kind of worked her way in there, like pretty easy. The game just came to her and she just was like feeling good. Like Gabe was like, I want to work with the oldest person because I don't want to deal with the younger people flipping out and gossiping and stuff like that. When they freak out, you know that you got a solid one in me. And then I think Caroline goes to her as well and is like, we're G to G. And she's like feeling so good. And she is like, it's always weird. Well, weird, maybe not the right term. Old people on Survivor. They either stick out like a sore thumb and are the outcasts and immediately the target and the, if you will, this is a new saying, the Andy of the group. But if you, we don't have
let's
to
just
make
make
that
all
a
of
thing.
his deepest fears come true. Yes.
So, but she's like pretty chill and present. And I think that like really helped her so far. Like if I'm looking at these tribes, I'm like, yellow, huge disaster. They're going to be the disaster tribe. We're going to get to see so much of them as they just like spiral out of control, only to have Rachel, Sam, and Sierra survive from that yellow group. And with one of them probably going on to win if history keeps repeating itself. Red tribe, a little wonky. We got Rome going nuts, which is like throwing people off a little bit. Teeny, who I love, like she might be a little too much for some people down the road here. And then we have Blue Tribe, who seems relatively stable. Gabe is like the biggest wild card there with the way he found the advantage, but maybe that cools off now that he found it and he's not hunting anymore. Yeah.
They seem more level-headed, and I don't know, something about Sue, man. She just looks cool.
Yeah.
She just looks,
Does she?
She just looks like this badass older woman who takes no shit. And I'm like, I think I would be intimidated and want to be close with her. Teeny, I met her at a Rob she wasn't, but I was at a Rob Has a Podcast event. I've gone to 2 Survivor events ever, and I will never go again. But
ever? Why?
Feeling like D-list celebrity famous for a night is not for me. I don't know. Everyone's really nice, but like, it's very
why
like,
D-list?
I mean, the most common thing I get about I Was on Survivor is that show is still on. It's like Survivor's community is niche. Not everyone watches. And you forget that when you're in it. Like I have never been recognized ever, which is great. Love that. But anyway, I went and Teeny was like this intense little baby super fan. And her dreams were to get on the show. And we talked for a while.
Oh, so you met her before.
Yes. And I was like, and in my head, I'm like, like keep applying. Like I'm not the person to ask. And then I see that she's on it. And I'm like, your dreams. So I'm pumped that she's on it.
Good. Yeah. And I mean, she right now, like she's having fun. She's winning friends over. Did she say too much to Asia about knowing that Asia's a podcaster and a big student of the game?
I get
that secret.
I mean, I get being like, hey, I know your secret, so we should vibe. But to me, it's a little bit like, hey, I know your secret, so you have to vibe with me. And now I have something over you, and I would want to vote that person out. If I was like remotely famous and someone was like, oh, you're Hannah Rose from whatever the fuck, from your really small YouTube channel. From Survivor. Oh, you're that bitch that quit. Then I would want to get them out immediately so they don't tell anyone.
Yeah. That's kind of what I felt. I was like, Teeny, you could have just buddied up to Asia knowing that without telling her that.
Yeah.
So Gabe's execution on the advantage find, not perfect. We're Rome. Didn't get to learn from Gabe's poor execution, and himself didn't do many favors. He runs around talking about how like he's got to do it when people aren't watching him do it as people are watching him do it. And he does, though. The one thing he does do is he decides to go dig at night to get the key. And so he does that, but then he has to get to the well. What about,
oh
so
my
he
God.
had to pour water.
Getting in the well.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
girl.
And he's sweaty and sandy and muddy and dirty, right?
That makes me want to die. Yeah.
Do you
walked
still
up-
boil the water before you drink it, or is
Not
it
if you
still
don't have
initially.
flint. Not if you don't have
Yeah.
flint. And
That's
they just,
true.
Dr. Joe is like, just make sure you're peeing 5 times a day. And you're like, Dr. Joe, I haven't peed in 3 days.
Yeah.
They're bugs.
Yeah.
There are scorpions in the well.
So now the
Yeah.
Red Tribe gets to drink the water that Rome like dipped his whole
Bathed
head
in.
and shoulders.
Yeah.
And,
So-
yeah, good stuff.
Firstly, though, they do tell you to boil your water out of liability purposes, I think.
And then no one
Boil
does.
your water, but they do put clean water in the well.
But they don't give you fire. They don't give you anything to boil the water with.
I mean, I can make fire with just bamboo.
Okay.
So-
Listen,
well, I wish you had
we-
been on my season. I might have stayed. No one's going to make a
You
shelter.
can make fire, but like come on, not everyone out there can.
Yeah, I'm not making a shelter for everybody, Hannah. Because the thing is with the shelter, it happens every season. Is you get Annika that's like, "Hey, it has to be built this way," and I was like, "I'm not building it that way. That's too hard." And then nobody builds it. So I'd rather just like nobody's building it.
How do you sleep? How does anyone sleep?
You just like after like a couple weeks of exhaustion, you finally fall asleep.
Weeks.
Yeah.
No.
Just in the dirt.
No.
Yeah, days. Yeah,
No.
weeks. The beach sand is actually the most comfortable. Like it's way more comfortable than laying on bamboo and stuff. It contours
Sorry,
to
Hannah.
your
It's
body.
the sand that's actually
Sand!
comfortable.
I don't know how people do this every season. Like, it's weird to me that I'm the fucking outlier. Like, what?
Are you though?
Yes, no
Well,
one
I mean, you're the
quits.
outlier of people who go on Survivor.
Okay, yes.
Because but like the general population, you're probably not. Like I actually have an
Yeah.
aversion to sand. Like if I go to a beach, it's like I'm either immediately covering my whole body in sand to just get it out of the way, or I am walking with my shoes and making sure I don't flip my heel wrong to get sand in my shoe. And if I take my shoes off and my socks off to go to the beach, it takes everything in me to put those socks
Oh.
back on my
Yeah,
feet after they've been in this. Like I would prefer to walk like 5 miles back to the hotel
Yeah.
barefoot in the streets than put my socks on my feet that have been in the sand.
Yeah.
And so I get it. But once I'm in it, then I'm in it. And maybe that's where the mud thing comes in, where Jeff is like, I don't want any of these people tippy toeing around, like getting dirty and stuff. We're just going to make them get dirty right off the bat, and then they're good to go.
Well,
So
Why does
Yeah.
everyone like throw themselves into the mud like
Man.
face first? I feel like every single person had mud like up their nose, like in their eyes and stuff.
and
I feel
almost pull a Bruce, like TK.
like,
Like, would-
yeah. Is
But
there
you
like
slide
pressure to
through
be
it.
like as performative as possible in
Yes.
this first challenge? Like I'm
Yes.
gonna
Well-
show how hard I'm trying, and I'd be like,
Jeff
dude, I'm gonna
says
take
that.
this mud like a little more in a controlled way and try and not get it like in my mouth.
So
The-
in ours, when we
yeah,
were,
go
he
ahead.
was going over the immunity challenge before we were filming and telling us like how to do it. And he was like, and if you really want to do it like the right way, go face first. That's how the dream team did it. And so of course, people that are smart are like, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to get my feet in and then I'll be able to like hop out. And I was like, say no more, Jeff. I will give the people what they want. And then that image of me hitting mud face first lives in my head rent free.
and is it a positive memory or a negative?
Now it is. This is my office and I have like a little printout and it's like, Hannah, therapist. And I'm just crying. And I'm like, that is me.
My take on that, Riley, is as an athlete, as a competitor, a second matters. 2
Mm.
seconds matter. But then when you look at the survivor challenges, you're like, I can only move as fast as the person next to me because we have to be together in this certain moments. We have to do this. Like you can strategically move slow as someone who's faster moving in general, because you have to wait till the last person gets there. You have to help people over the thing. So you don't have to bust your balls for seconds. And even though it all comes down to a puzzle, sometimes the puzzles are only won by seconds.
But you lose those seconds later when instead of working on the puzzle, you're like getting the mud out of your eyes so that you can see it and stuff. Like I feel like strategically, you should be a little more careful with the mud.
Yeah, I don't know where the medium is, Riley, and until you're out there and do it, like I don't even know that I ever had to do a mud thing like that. Yeah,
I'm gonna be like,
Riley, why don't you go out?
I'll be carefully crawling through the mud as Probst like yells at me. Like, look at this guy.
Like, hands
you say that
and
now.
Feet. You won't even put your knees into it because you just are like, I'm just going to protect my clothes and everything.
I'll be on tiptoes. Okay.
Well, what did
my
Jeff
goal
say?
is to have the least mud on me.
What did Jeff say at the immunity challenge? He was like, if you wanted something soft, you shouldn't have come on Survivor. And there was like a tweet a while ago that was like, somebody dies. Jeff Probst. That's how you do it on Survivor. And I was like, yes, that.
Was it? It was it crazy that they just kept that challenge going as Andy was like possibly dying in the corner? Like they didn't know it was happening.
Jeff ran over and was like, he's breathing. He put a medical guy on it.
Jeff knew, but how do the contestants like? They're a little.
No, you don't care, dude. You don't care. And I'm going to tell you again.
You're like, if he dies, that's one less person I have to vote out.
In your mind, you are thinking that. Outwardly, like, as an accused sociopath,
what? Can we talk about that for a second? Who has accused you of being a sociopath?
There's a lot of fans that are like, he's pretty sociopathic. Like he the way he moves in games and stuff. Like I don't think that I am one, but I definitely can act like one. I think like I can put myself in that mind frame. So as a sociopath, in your mind, you're like, fuck yes, dude is about to get pulled. He's hurting. He's out of here. Yes, I cannot wait. Half the tribe wants to quit. Outwardly, you have to be like, you got it, buddy. We're all in this together. We're a community. Jeff said community. Buck up, buddy. Nobody's out. You're not out. I would have cheered for you at the coconut thing. I just didn't see you do the coconut thing. That's outwardly how you have to be. But inwardly, and similar experience, I was playing poker in California, Northern California, Riley, where we met for breakfast.
I remember.
Earthquake hit. Chandeliers shaking. Nobody from the poker table was willing to leave because they didn't want to leave their chips in case someone else did something nefarious with them. We were willing to risk our lives for a couple $100 each at the poker table rather than leave and be safe. And that is the same mindset with Survivor here is these guys are like, someone's dying. We could die, but as long as it's not me and then I'm closer to the goal, that's fine.
Maybe that's how they should weed out quitters is like in casting, do like a simulation poker earthquake, and whoever gets up from I would have gotten up from the table. And that's how you know I'm not a competitor in that way.
I mean, you could. I think they used to cast sociopaths. They don't really do that as much anymore. Almost never.
I'm over it. They just want someone with a story. And listen, that's why I got cast. But like, I don't care about your life story and the struggles that you went through. I want to see you starve and cutthroat backstab each other as a fan.
We need more sociopaths with no story, just pure
I don't care about your story.
Yeah, just come out and slit some throats and don't feel any remorse for it whatsoever.
Yeah. When you got on, you weren't like, here are the things I've had to go through in my life. You were like, I'm here to fuck a bitch. Just kidding. But you were like, I'm here to get that money. You know?
But this is the thing, Hannah, and I've also like been torn on this. Like, do I not have a story? Because my life's been pretty good.
It doesn't mean you don't have a story. No.
But, or do I just, am I an optimist who's like, my story, I just did, like, I was just more optimistic about what happened and how it happened. And like, I wasn't cool in elementary school. I definitely got bullied. I got bullied in junior high. High school, like I learned to cope with that through humor and being the class clown. But like, I never like have looked back and been like, the reason I am the way I am is because the kid bullied me in second grade because I didn't cheer for me when I opened a coconut.
The best Survivor story is like, when I was 13, I didn't fit in. And it's like, oh, like, unlike all those other 13-year-olds who are like perfectly self-assured.
Yeah, I think if I was just like, because I'm very like optimistic, whatever, and just like pretty happy baseline. And I think if I wasn't like, I was a drug addict and an alcoholic and I got sober when I was 20, I would have had nothing. But they were like, Jeff was like, that must have been so hard. And I was like, it actually wasn't. Like, life's way easier now, you know, like I'm chilling. It's been 13 years. Like, it's fine. But they really wanted to pull on that. And I was like, I got nothing for you. Head back to camp.
So do I have to come up with a story? Do people have to come up with a story? Does everyone here have a story on this season? I think they do. I think most everyone here has a story.
I think that's the biggest change with New Era. It was like Winners at War. And then it was like, let's focus on like the hardships people got through, which is fine. But like, I don't need that.
But it's also super fans. It's the two. It's the super fan with the backstory.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I don't hate it. Like this cast, honestly, like I've watched after the first episode, I'm like, everyone here can tell a story. Everyone here is articulating well their purpose, what they want to happen.
It's super fans with a story who also host a podcast. That
is
who are professional
the
public
Venn
speakers.
diagram.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's great. Like honestly, like Sam, him talking about being the glue guy was like brilliant. I was like, that's what I always tried to be, was like not the alpha, let somebody else support the alpha. And I didn't know it was called a glue guy in sports, but that makes perfect sense. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so like, but like all of those little tidbits and everybody had them. And I want to talk about the journey here, the journeys of TK and Asia. So they lose the first challenge and they have to select, each tribe has to select one person based off of not knowing what the contest is going to be. How do you go about that, Hannah? You're sitting in one of the tribes there and they're like, someone's got to go. Who's it going to be?
I thought it was interesting that on one of the tribes, a bunch of people wanted to go and they were fighting for it. And on the other tribe, like, no, I don't want to go. And I think that really illuminates just like different kinds of personalities. Like if I was out there, I don't think I would have wanted to go. But I know Brandon on the second episode was like, I really want to do a journey. This is like a Survivor bucket list. I also think it's a super fan thing. And as a not super fan, I don't know what the fuck any of that is. And as a super fan, I think you're like, yes, this is important and I'm missing out on socializing, but I might do something great to bring back to the tribe. I don't know. All I know is that the reason I'm not good is that if I was after Community Challenge having that conversation, my mind would be blank and I would be thinking, what are we having for dinner? And these people are like thinking all of these steps ahead and I just don't get it. I don't get it. Don't know.
Yeah. My take on this is if you're self-aware enough to recognize that you are the most multi-talented person in the group, that's who you should be aiming to go if you really want to get the supplies. Like we don't know anything about what they're going to have to do. Who's the most overall talented person? And so I think like TK going, great. I think he was like, I want to go. I feel like I would be good. That's a great option.
You don't have to pause it. I'm just putting more nicotine in because I am trash.
It's medication, right?
Hell yeah, brother.
Is that snooze?
No, I'm not that trash. It's Zen. It's just like a little baby bit.
A gum.
If I had this with me,
chew. Yeah.
This was a hidden immunity. I know.
You would have sniffed it out immediately.
Yeah.
Okay. So TK going on this journey, I don't like fair. I think it's fine. Asia, well, I think the Lavu Tribe, multiple people wanted to go and they kind of are like, and Asia ends up winning out and she goes. And I don't know if it's good or bad. I just know that for my tribe, if I were on the tribe there, I don't think I would personally want to go, but I would be looking for someone who I thought could do puzzles fair enough, was physical enough, because you never know what's coming. you know, and then be like, okay, that's the person I want to represent us, to give us a fair chance at doing this.
Sure.
And they get out there. They didn't really talk to each other that much, which
not at all. Unless they edited stuff out, but I feel like they wouldn't edit it out if it was like, hey, what's your deal?
If you're going on a journey, your tribe is assuming you're building a relationship with the people on that journey. So why not at least build a relationship with the people on the journey?
Yeah, they were just like so set on camp supplies, which I do get that. As a tribe that did not have camp supplies, I get being like, strategy? Survival. Like, we don't have fire. We don't have a machete. Like, life sucks over here.
Hannah, this might make you feel a little bit better. A lot of people, once they get those camp supplies, still don't know how to use them, and they don't even make your life that much better.
You know, that doesn't make me feel better, but it does seem true.
It doesn't?
It does seem true. Because I think in my mind, I was like, oh, these are all the things that led me to feel the way that I felt. But the reality is, day one, once my socks got wet, I was crying. So, like, it wasn't a good look for me.
Yeah. I mean, wet socks are disgusting and feel gross on your feet. So that's totally understandable. And then I lost my socks, and production was like, sorry. And so there's like bugs eating at my soggy feet in the middle of the night. It's like, show that. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, in her defense, I think Asia did a phenomenal job. I mean, she almost won. And I love that she tried to take the ball thing away from TK. I was like, yes, wrestle him for it. Punch him in the face. Ooh.
Yeah. I did like that, but first of all, let's talk about your socks. They're gone. You have to then figure out how to manipulate production into giving you more socks.
Yeah, my brain wasn't working like that. My brain was, hey, can I have new socks? Oh, do you break your socks or like rip them? No, they blew away in the monsoon that you didn't show on the episode. Oh, can't do anything about that. Oh, I have to go.
Yeah.
Vote me out.
Okay. Yeah. I think, listen, here's all you had to do. All you had to do was steal one person's sock, eat it. Then they're like, this girl eats socks, dude. Get her more socks. That's all you got to do, Hannah. And
I would have been
They would have brought unlimited socks if you would have eaten somebody else's sock. They would have just like, how many socks do you want? You would have woken up in the morning, socks sprinkled everywhere. You're like, what happened? And they're like, the monsoon brought all the socks in. You're like, okay.
I should have talked to you before I went. I should have just talked to you and gotten these tips and tricks, and I would have been voted out second. It's
the reason I was stealing coconuts on season 27 is that I understood that if you turn the food into a story, you're going to get more food.
So this is why you are the way that you are and or excel in games like Survivor. I would never think that. Yeah, I was like asking the nighttime production girl like about herself. I was like, how is this for you? Like, how are you? Are you okay? And she was like, bruh.
She's like, I can't tell you. You cannot know that information.
It was her first time. So I was like, oh, this must be so exciting for you. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And was it?
I don't know. I messaged her. I found her on Instagram after the show and was like, I'm really sorry. Because by the second night, she would have the camera in my face and I'd be like, get that fucking red light out of my face because I could not sleep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was not. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, she was like, it's okay. You were great. I was like, sorry.
Wait, like while you were trying to sleep, they're like...
They're literally just like, you just hear leaves crunching and it's like... And I'm laying there like wide awake.
In your eyelids, yeah.
The red light. And I...
Yeah.
Every single night since then, I've laid in bed and thought, I am so grateful for a bed. It's never gone away, that feeling.
Would you prefer a bed, but you always have a camera person there with a red light crunching on leaves, or
sand, but you're alone?
Sand, but you're alone on a beach.
Bed. But I also sleep with like an eye mask and earplugs and mouth tape and a silk bonnet. Why did I think I could go on the show? I don't know, man.
I mean, we all sleep with that stuff, I think. I know Riley does. What did you think of this journey? Do you like these journeys? Are you like an old school purist?
So I'm not anything purist because I'm like not a super fan. I'm like a new fan. Okay. Like I'm a new fan that ended up out there by accident. I prefer no journeys, but it does bring, I just prefer old Survivor. I just really thought it was quality television. And I think it is now too, but I think it almost feels like trying really hard with all of these layers and like stripped down to its most basic game. That is when the most people watched the show, you know? So, I mean, it's fine. I also think about a lot of the behind the scenes production stuff. Like, you know, when you get your 2-second clip of being on a pontoon, that's multiple hours of drone footage. And like the journey that Brandon went on day 2 was like 6 hours for 5 minutes of footage. And so I think about that a lot. And I'm like, ooh, like how long did it take them to get mic'd up? Because it's all the behind the scenes stuff that really eroded my sense of being okay. Because it was just so many hours of silence sitting in hot tents getting mic'd up. And so I think about that. But when I just watch the show and I try to forget that I was ever out there, it's fine. You know, I thought Asia did a really awesome job. It also looks way easier than it probably was. I'm like, it's obviously that rock right there. But when you're out there.
Yeah, the one he like, walked past.
Yeah. So journeys are fine, I guess.
Yeah. I was really rooting for Asia there. I was like, okay, she's got it. She's figured it out. She's looking at it. And then she couldn't find her way back to the water.
And neither could he. And he just like thought outside of the box and just like powered us. And I was like, she could have done that. But again, when you're out there, it feels different.
Yeah. And then you said you liked when should Asia have wrestled TK harder for that thing?
Yeah. I would have kicked him in the groin. I would have elbowed him in the nose. Yeah. I mean, I probably wouldn't have done any of that. I probably would have been like, how are you? Like, I just would have done
how are you feeling?
Fucking empathy bullshit. Been like, hi, what a weird experience, huh? And you would have been like, what? But in my mind, I was like, yeah, wrestle him. Like, I want this to be like you're drowning him for it.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I mean, there's only so much you can do at that point. Like, Asia, like, tried to screw, because she was like, oh, I see this other little buoy attached to this bigger glass bulb, like if that's something. And then when she realized it wasn't, she's like, TK is gonna take this. So once you go back from the journey, what do you think? Like, is there a proper strategy? Like, TK came back with the survival gear. He's pretty good, right? Are people going to suspect him of having also an advantage or something?
I think it depends on the person. Like, I remember when Caleb and Sabaya came back from the Sweat and Savvy, and Emily was like, they definitely have something. And I was like, I do hope they're okay. You know, like, it depends on the person. And, you know,
the
I think
person who's like on the receiving end, not the person coming in.
I think the people on the receiving end and the level of like paranoia. And I think obviously if you come back with supplies, you're in such a better position to just be like, oh, this will happen. And also you're welcome.
Yeah.
Yes. But I think you're kind of screwed either way, because you could tell the story in detail and it could sound like lies because it's so detailed, or you don't give enough detail and it sounds like lies because there's loopholes. And I just think either way, you're kind of planting seeds of doubt.
Yeah. And I also think like it depends on who you are. Like if I went on a journey and came back, no matter what I brought to the tribe, it wouldn't be enough.
No.
It wouldn't be enough. I'd be like, hey guys, I brought you Survivor thing. I actually won everybody a car. They're Porsches. Everybody gets one of those. And we all got $50,000 inside the Porsche to pay for the taxes on the Porsche itself. Pretty cool, right? And they're like, he's got an idol. Yeah,
he has an idol. But that's if you're a returning player. But if it was your first season, you'd be fine. But as a returning player, which I'm so pumped for 50.
Yeah. My face is pretty pointy. I don't think people would trust me even on my first season.
Oh, really?
Like I have like the villainous, pointy, aggressive.
But you also used to have long hair, and that's like, hey, I'm a cool guy.
Good vibes.
Good vibes, surfer, bro. And then if you start talking to people about pickleball, they'll just tune out, and that's a neutral thing too.
That's true. Okay. Yeah, I mean, maybe. And I'm older. Like,
and you're a dad.
Maybe I'm less intimidating. I'm a dad, yeah. So that
wait,
could be.
Quick question. If they asked you to go on 50, would you go?
I mean,
I'd go if you go.
Oh, you would?
Just to be like, hi! And then I would be like, vote me on.
Oh, you wouldn't work with me? We wouldn't be doing pregame alliances?
I feel like you could talk me into staying. I think you have that kind of
I think I could actually, when you said like your tribe was there and everything, I could have, I mean, I probably would have just given you my socks and been like, we'll figure it out. Just make sure you're with me the whole time.
That I would have stayed. Because the person convincing me to stay was Brandon. and love him. But like he was not
he doesn't
well
have
either.
He doesn't have this. Yeah, he doesn't have the Sigma energy needed to convince.
I was like,
Hannah
we are
Rose
not
to
going
stay.
far. Like, there's no worlds that we make it together because, like, you're my bestie, and
You're not dragging me anywhere, Brandon. You're not dragging me anywhere. I need someone who can drag me somewhere.
Yeah.
Let's get to Tribal Council. And this buildup from Gata, it's like Andy is going. His meltdown was epic. He threw his best friend under the bus. Mm-hmm. He's scrambling. He's still spiraling out of control. But the tribe is deciding between strength or stability. Is that the proper term, maybe?
Strength or like strategy. And the reality is like, it becomes an individual game. So keeping Jon, who wasn't even on puzzles, what is going to be the benefit?
Yes, exactly. And he didn't seem particularly horrible at the challenges, but he definitely wasn't like carrying them. And Andy, I guess, it definitely looks more physical and was doing more. He was covered in sand, so he had to have been doing something. And we get Sierra. I thought this was interesting. Sierra is like, oh, I'm exhausted. I'm dead. I'm beat up. I'm tired. Props to Annika for being the leader and picking it all up. And Annika did throughout this episode. She was very bossy. And I think she was mine and Riley's one of our first boot picks. Yeah. Like we picked last week and we both thought like she's going to come out of the gates too strong and she is going to get voted out first. She didn't get voted out first. And while people are recognizing that she is trying to lead, it doesn't seem like they're particularly annoyed by it yet.
Yeah. Yet. I think keyword is yet. And she even has the self-awareness to be like, oh, I didn't want to do this, but I almost just can't help it. And so it's like kind of like Andy in a different way, being like,
yes,
oh no, like I can't stop. It's like she's just going into that type A alpha. I know this.
Yes. Yeah. And I loved it. And she only knows a lot of it because she read survival books. So she's like sprouted coconut, put the 4 holes for the posts, do this and that. And like those survivor books, like if you're a fan, if you're someone who's going out on the show, those are all well and good to get some information from. But at the end of the day, you're not building a luxury bamboo shelter that you can live in for years and years. You're just trying to get something. It would be cooler, but nobody on the tribe has the know-how or is willing to put in the work or a combination of the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get someone swapped or like there was a merge, you're on a new beach or whatever anyways.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't read any survival books.
And you don't want to get voted. Like I would hate to go out, bust my ass building a shelter and then get voted out first and be like, gah, can I tear it down real quick? Get me back there so I can tear down all the work I did for those assholes.
Right. Well, like, I like that like Hunter last season just like made himself a bed. And I was like, hello? Yes. Yeah. That is some energy that I like. But he didn't make one for anyone else.
Yeah. I talk about a lot, like if I ever went on the show again and I run a individual reward, I'd tell Jeff I want to go by myself. But my other secret fantasy of being back on Survivor is going off by myself and building my own individual camp for just me with a fire pit, with food. I go catch fish. I put it at that camp. I sneak some of the rice from the tribe and go put it at that camp. And then like in the middle of the night, I just sneak over, build a little fire, have my feast, do all of that. Just like secret.
You should go on alone.
No, because the whole part of it is that I'm just like fucking other people over.
Oh,
like there's no pleasure in being alone. The pleasure is knowing that I'm doing something that is nefarious.
Right. So, anyways, not a sociopath. We determined.
Yeah, we determined I'm not a sociopath, and I don't fantasize about any sociopathic tendencies.
Right.
So that would be my dream, though. So Annika, bless her heart, she knows that she shouldn't be leading, but she can't help herself. And that's often the case. I think it is refreshing to see that it's this like 26-year-old marketing manager instead of like this alpha bro, former professional athlete who's like, I know what we need. It's like, it's Annika, which is so awesome.
I do like that. And you would think it would be someone like Soul. That his name? S-O-L.
Yes.
Soul.
Yes.
I could see that for him. Like when I saw his picture, I was like, ugh. And then Annika, she's this like little female who's just like, I know all this stuff, which again, depends on who you're around. That could not go the right way. But it seems like in the early days, you just care about having some level of comfort, if you could call it that. And she was supplying that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And you also need someone to point a direction. And if everyone's avoiding it being them, then somebody does eventually have to be like, it's like naming a name. Like you're like, Hannah, who should we vote out? You're like, who do you think? I was like, I don't know, probably one of the weaker ones. What do you think? And then you're like giving me a little until we narrow it down to one person that we obviously both know is that person. And then one of us is finally brave enough to say the name, hoping that you then don't go and tell everyone and weaponize it against me because I'm the one who said the name first. Like,
God, that sounds exhausting. What is that like?
This is the same thing. Like, you need something done at camp. Everyone's too afraid to lead and tell people that they have to do something or they need firewood, and you can't do it all yourself, and you don't want to do it all yourself because why are you busting your ass for everybody when nobody else is willing to do stuff? But you don't want to come across as the leader or the bossy one, and you're just hoping and praying that somebody else steps into that position. So Annika, I think, did alleviate a lot of other people's, pressures and anxieties about like, how are we going to get anything done?
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to lead, but somebody has to tell people what to do a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So we get that little moment. I like that. I think that that's going to be some foreshadowing as Annika steps into that role a little harder, fingers crossed. And then we get Jeff talking to Andy about his meltdown, his backstory, grew up on the outside, never felt like he belonged. And he has made a lot of changes recently and put himself out of his comfort zone, is willing and ready to test himself. And, honestly, like, props to him. Like, you recognized all of that in yourself within the last handful of years or whatever. And then you were like, what's the biggest stage ever that I can challenge this new me on? Is that no props? Hannah's like rolling her eyes. She's like, no props to Andy. He's
but like
still talking too much.
How much of that true internal healing has occurred versus like, I want to go be on TV and like I need to show everyone and tell everyone. And again, it's like, you have to scream it from the rooftops. Is that your truth?
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you're the professional.
I don't see clients anymore. I haven't provided therapy since before Survivor.
Oh, wow.
Wow. What do you do now?
Well, I own a group practice, so there's like 20 something therapists and they do it,
you're
but
the
I
boss
don't.
Now. Yeah.
Gotcha.
You just chill.
I was like, I can't go be half naked on an island and then go see clients who have watched it. Like, that just seems unprofessional. I know there's been therapists that have done it, but to me, I'm like, ooh.
Okay. Did you know that going in, that you probably weren't going to be able to act as a therapist afterwards?
Yeah, I was already like having a what do I want to do with my life thing. And so it was like kind of the impetus to start transitioning people out and go more towards an administrative like CEO role. And that was like the excuse to do it.
Okay. Very good. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Delegate, work harder or work smarter, not harder, right?
That is my thing, which, again, didn't bode very well, as you saw for me sweeping the ground. Here's the thing about that clip of me sweeping the ground at camp. During pregame in Survivor Safety School, they were like, one of the most important things to do is sweep your camp because bugs and critters will live under all of the dead foliage. And that's what I was doing. And then it became this meme of like me pretending to be busy at work. And it's just like Hannah sweeping the ground. So like, I just want to defend myself there.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But yeah, not everybody does. You are supposed to keep those areas clean because scorpions can hide under the foliage, centipedes, you have it all. Yeah. And so it makes sense to me. Like I was never critical of that. That's definitely more effective than weaving palm fronds, which is the least effective thing a person can do.
When you don't have a machete also. So you're just cutting. Palm fronds are weirdly durable. Ugh, God. But yeah, it makes sense. I mean, maybe build a camp before you start sweeping it. But
Yeah, you got to clean up the camp spot before you can build.
yeah, I like doing less. I just like
Okay.
that. That's what I should have said in my first interview. I like doing
Yeah.
less and comfort. They would have been like, ooh.
We'll
Yeah.
cast someone else.
Yeah. Or it makes
No,
good
they-
TV.
Yeah,
would've
Listen,
it's
if
loved
great.
people
They
are
loved it.
angry, what is it like? Any
That's why
press
you were
is
there.
good press?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why you were there, because they knew that you would be out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
So, back at Tribal, Jon voices his frustration with Andy's outburst, and Andy's like, wasn't premeditated. Like, I just let the paranoia take over.
Sure.
And in this moment, like, I'm watching it, I'm like, one of them definitely knows the other one's going home.
Sure.
And Andy doesn't seem like he'd be that good of an actor at this. So I'm partly like, Andy's still going home because he couldn't fleece his buddy in the game this hard when he's dealing with all of these pressures of fitting in and, wanting to be liked and wanting to be seen and all of those things. And then we even get Sam saying, like, Andy's willing to give 100% in the challenges,
Sure.
but is also willing to turn on his best friend, which is a very big red
Yeah.
flag. Like,
Yeah.
it should be understood as a Survivor contestant that you should be willing to turn on your best friend, but you don't announce it. It's like wanting someone to go home injured. Like,
Sure.
yeah, you are hoping for that a little bit when they're laying on the ground. You're like, I hope it's not bad. Like, I don't want him dead, but I do want him out of the game. Take
Sure.
him. But outwardly, you have to be like, you got this, buddy. And it's the same thing here where it's like, I'm going to cut my friend. But outwardly, you have to be like, I could never cut my friend.
Right.
So the fact
Sure.
that he voiced that, like, big red flag to me, honestly. And Rachel talks about, like, if Andy goes on a journey, he can't keep his mouth shut. Like, we've already seen he cannot keep his mouth shut.
Yeah.
So he's going to tell everything to another tribe, everything that's going on this tribe. Like, so many reasons to vote Andy out. And still, the episode still got me. I'm convinced it's Andy. And I'm like, okay, we usually know who based on the verse vote, because the verse vote is almost never the person going home. Time to vote. First vote, Jon. I'm like, Jon is out of here, dude. Because they usually show like Jon. And then they'll be like, Andy. Andy's out. So it's like Jon. And I'm like, okay, I even have written in my notes, not Jon after the first vote. Then Annika. And I'm like, oh, Annika, that leader potential could have been so much more. And then Jon, he is out. He gets his torch snuffed, burned bright and fast. Final words for Jon, Hannah?
I love him. I want to be friends with him. I thought he was great. I thought he seemed very real. Like his neuroticism didn't get the best of him throughout the whole thing. So he was anxious and a little paranoid, but he was still composed. And I loved that he acknowledged he didn't feel like he was fitting in, but he didn't overcompensate and overdo it. He was just like, you guys watch TikTok? Remember Vine? I was like, yes. Like, he seemed subtle and it was nice. But I think the tribe made a good call, even though I want more Jon, less Andy, because it's a shield, right? In that next vote, Andy is an easy vote. But that also happens so that the loose cannon ends up getting way further in the game because you keep using them as a shield, and then they're like individual game and he's beasting it.
Yeah. And he can, I don't know that he's beasting it in an individual game.
Yeah.
I think he's definitely going to grate people the wrong way, but he's like, you get close enough to the end, you're like, we got to get him to the end now because nobody's voting for him. He's like burned everybody because when he's at 80%, he outwardly targets his best friends. Yeah. So I think, I think he's one of those guys that, like,
it's not great that was 80%, is it? Like, what do you
no,
think
everybody's not 80%. Like, I think, who said that? Was it Annika? Annika said, like, we're all like at a deficit here. The fact that that's his 80%, like, I don't expect any of us to be 100% throughout this entire game.
Not
and
good.
I also
if he dips below 80, it's going to get really messy.
It's going to be great TV, though. As a fan, I'm just like, I'm on my couch eating, watching this. This is all I ever wanted.
Yeah, it's true. I was like, oh my gosh, get under 80 as quickly as possible. Jon, you did indeed burn bright and fast, and it was a pleasure watching you. Again, sorry that I was hoping so hard that you'd get voted out first. but you did make a good episode. Let's move into Riley's superlatives. Riley, what do you have for us this week?
I am going to change it up just slightly for this season, and we are going to do just straight predictions instead of superlatives. So a few questions. So we saw Rome getting into his idol hunt this episode. Where will he stop on this idol, like box within a box within a box thing?
I think he's going to calculate the likelihood of him going to a tribal council early. Like,
did they calculate that it's low?
I think he calculates that they're going to be fine, honestly. And so then I think he's going to keep going. Like, I feel like Rome is the type of guy who's going to go for the full idol.
Okay.
Anna, what do you think?
Yeah, he seems like it. He reminds me of someone from a past season, I don't remember, who was just like too enthusiastic in a way that is annoying. I don't see him getting very far in this game, personally.
No, I don't think so either. I agree. I think he's going for the full idol, but also he's doing it in such a messy way that it's just like last season. Having the idol is like a disadvantage, basically.
Yeah. I think what's going to happen is he's going to keep looking for the idol, and he's going to maybe even know he needs it, but not have it yet as they go to tribal council, because we did get a little taste of like people saying Rome is a lot. And that was also our prediction going in, is like, if Rome can't tone it down around people who are downtrodden and out of their comfort zone and feeling a little bit disgusted or disgusting, there's times to be somber around the audience. And so, Okay.
All right. The Yellow Tribe, Gata, they do not have their idol yet. Who is going to find it?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think Sam, but I'm hoping Andy.
Andy would be great.
I am not rooting for Andy. Andy would be good TV, but I'm not rooting for him. Yes, that's what
we're rooting for.
Okay.
Hannah, we are only making good TV. We want the biggest disaster possible. That's how this podcast operates. When we choose tribes for future seasons, it's based solely off of the chaos and the disaster and all of the epic failures.
Having the dilemma of not having a vote, but you got to go like pour water on something or whatever it is that the Yellow Tribe will need to do. That could destroy Andy. Like just the stress of it. And
what's happening to that log when it rains? Is the entire tribe seeing that log and being like, "Who has it? Somebody!"
Yeah, okay. I guess I hope he finds it, but then it messes up his game more.
But who do you think will find it?
I can see Sam finding it. He just seems like the competent one. Or Sierra. Or Rachel. I'm just naming everyone. I'm naming everyone in the tribe.
Well, those three.
I am rooting for Rachel. I don't think it would be necessarily good TV if she found it, because I think she's very strategic and competent and sane. But as a person, I like her the most.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Sierra. She had kind of that thing about like she's like her dad's like sort of adventure buddy or whatever that whole part was about, that I think could have been foreshadowing that maybe she goes on an idol hunt. And I would like for not all three tribes to have their idol found by men. That's like, kind of always a narrative in Survivors that men find more of the idols. And so let's have Sierra find it.
Okay.
All right. Let's do winner picks.
Yeah. I'm going to stick with TK. I named him preseason. He probably came out of the gates a little too strong, nominating himself to go on the journey, but it's not like insurmountable. I also said I would stick with my preseason pick as long as I felt that they weren't getting voted out first. So, or as long as I felt like they weren't getting voted out next. So I'm going to stay with TK. Do I think he's in the best position currently? He's not in a bad position. He seems like he's okay, in that blue tribe.
Right.
Okay.
Andy. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes.
Not Andy. I want to say I'm feeling a female again. I just am.
Okay.
I'm feeling a female. Maybe Asia or Rachel. And I don't know if it's based on their game or if it's because I want them to win. Again, I'm not a strategic girly. So I'm like, I don't actually know what leads someone to win. I just like them. I like Asia and I like Rachel.
Okay.
I'm sticking with Teeny, who I think had a good episode, but also had like one. She had like a quote where she was like, "I'm going to be everybody's number one," and I was like, "Ooh, I don't know if I like that. Like, I don't know if that's actually a good way to play Survivor." But overall, I still think she seems like in a good spot with her tribe, and people like her.
Yeah. And again, we are experts over here, but we don't always get it right. There's so many people here that are. Not everybody has a chance to win. For sure, not everybody has a chance to win now. But a large percentage of these people, based on what we saw in the first episode, still have a very good chance of winning this game.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. Anything else, Riley?
Yeah. Who is going home next?
I mean, they teased Annika, which makes me think it's probably not Annika. Hannah whispers Andy to us. And I have to, man, it's Andy.
I feel like Yellow will go to tribal council again, but I am also very aware that I'm projecting my past trauma.
No, I think they're going to tribal again.
I agree. I think they are. And I also think it's Andy.
Okay,
that's going to be awkward.
Andy.
Jon and Andy at Ponderosa just staring at each other for 2 days straight. No one else. Ooh.
And then Jon just constantly reminding him that at least he has a podcast.
Yeah.
And Andy's like, no. So, yeah. Well, hopefully some of our predictions come true, unless you're the person who's being predicted to get out next, then hopefully that one doesn't come true for you.
Unless you're
for
Andy.
Us, it would make it would make us look brilliant. Hannah, I want to thank you so much for joining the podcast. We had a lot of fun. Riley, thanks to you as well for being here. Big thanks to Sweet Booty Beacham, working all the behind the scenes magic. And until next week, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. See ya.